Good morning, everyone. The Autodesk Virtual Academy, brought to you all by KETIV Technologies. I'm Nigel Abayak, and as you can see, there's multiple of us on here today. Additionally, we're all working remotely, so just wanted to say hi from our respective home offices. So first off, I'm Nigel Abayak, one of the customer success managers here at KETIV Technologies. Additionally, I am the host for AVA every week, and so definitely glad to see everyone on here. But let's go down the line here, at least the line that I see on terms of my camera. And we got a couple of friends here today. First off, we've got Jose Perez, Clara, who's here with us, one of our colleagues, and has been here on AVA numerous times. Jose, how's it going?
Going all right. How are you doing today?
Doing good, doing good. So Jose is one of our data management experts here on the team, working primarily with things like Vault and Fusion Lifecycle. Odds are, if you are one of our customers that have us help you with your Vault configuration or maintenance, things along those lines, Jose is probably someone you've talked to in the past. Additionally, we've got Brian. I like to refer to Brian as the data management guru at Autodesk. I know he has a formal title. Brian, do you want to explain a little bit what your role over there at Autodesk is?
Well, first thing, I'll be updating my LinkedIn. Second, thanks for that. I am currently the readiness manager for PLM and PDM. 15 years at Autodesk. This is actually the first AVA I've done, so I'm honored to be part of this and to be contributing to the efforts from KETIV. So Readiness Program Manager, that just means that I work with resellers like KETIV on all things data management or PLM. So happy to be here. I'll be chiming in, but thanks for the opportunity.
Absolutely. Thank you, Brian, for joining us. I know that this is your first AVA that you've been on, but definitely not the first time that you've helped us here at KETIV kind of understand more about the product. So you've probably been a part of us preparing for these definitely in the past.
Awesome.
And last but not least, we got Javier Chavez, the man in his golden house. Good morning. How's it going?
Good, good, good.
Cool. And Javier is one of our application engineers here at KETIV Technologies. Jav's been on numerous AVAs, does a lot of training activities. A lot of our customers have interacted with Jav in the past. When I talk to customers on the phone, they're like, hey, is Jav still there? It's like, yes, absolutely, Jav's still here. And Jav's, one of those guys who knows a lot about a lot of things. So he's one of the best people that we have to be able to provide this webinar for all of us today. Additionally, I don't have a purple house. Jav doesn't have a gold house. Jose is not doing this from the forest. These are, really cool Zoom backgrounds that we found that were actually, I saw on Twitter from some of our friends over at Autodesk. And so if you're interested in what that looks like and downloading some really cool backgrounds that were created in 3ds Max, Maya, and stuff, I'll go ahead and put the link in the chat. I think it's really interesting. So if you want to spice up your Zoom meetings internally, because we understand a lot of people are working remotely, we'll provide some backgrounds for you to use too. But without further ado, let's get started here today with the presentation. We're talking about Fusion Team and collaborating remotely. We know that everyone's working remotely. Not everyone who can work remotely is doing so. And so there are some tools that Autodesk provides to make that collaboration process simpler, right? We talked about collaboration and working remotely 2 weeks ago. We're going to go a little bit more in depth into one of the solutions this week, which is Fusion Team, to be able to get some of your data management stuff that sometimes is tied to your network, maybe stuck at and make that a little bit more accessible to people who are either working from home or maybe you have a disparate team working in multiple locations. So if you have any questions, go ahead and type them in and we'll go ahead and address those throughout the webinar. Without further ado.
Yep. So let's talk about our agenda for today, right? These are some of the 5 topics we want to touch on. There's always going to be a Q&A, even though it's not listed there, so you can count on that. But we're going to talk about first, how do you get the tool, right? Some of you already have access. How do you get access to it if you can't see it somewhere on your screen or you don't know how to actually launch these tools? So we're going to talk to you a little bit about that. Hopefully, guide you in the right direction there. We're going to help you, on what to do after you have access. Setting that hub up and setting up projects so that you could start collaborating with either internal people or external people, right? Some of these tools were actually initially intended just for collaborating with outside stakeholders, but it doesn't mean we can't use those too, especially right now where we are working remotely and don't have access to our network. So we're going to make sure that you know how to secure the data and make sure that the right people can see the right data at the right time. Okay. And then something more specific to the CAD tools you're using, right? We want to make sure that you can manage your Inventor and AutoCAD data. If you're using Vault, right, there's some specific workflows for that. And we'll talk to you a little bit about that, how to connect Vault and Fusion Team together through a tool called Fusion or Project Sync, right? So you might want to ask yourself, you know, do you currently have access to the collections, right? And you may or may not be aware if that's the case or not, but maybe you're aware that you're currently accessing some of the tools in the collections, like AutoCAD or Inventor, right? If that's the case, there's a good chance you have access to collections. And collections has a variety of tools, right? And a lot of times when we finally look at the big list, you look at it and think, man, I'm not using that one, I'm not using that one, I'm not using that one. So that'll come into play here when we talk a little bit more about Fusion Team. Another thing to ask yourself is maybe, do you have access to Fusion 360, right? That's our online cloud-based CAD tool, right? So if you have access to either one of those, right, you're gonna wanna just ask yourself that and just make note of the answer for right now. But the other thing you're gonna wanna do is if you're working with other people, how do they access their tools? Do they do it through the collections? Do they do it through Fusion 360? Just so that you know whether they can access it, these tools or not, or a Fusion Team in essence, or not, because Fusion Team is actually included in both of these tools. So again, if you have the collections, if you access Inventor, AutoCAD, or any one of those other tools in the collections, you have Fusion Team. If you have Fusion 360, you have access to Fusion Team, right? And if your stakeholders do, same thing. They have access to Fusion Team. They don't need a license. They've got it already. So you may not know whether you have collections or not, and you might end up finding out that you don't. So there are other ways to access Fusion Team. One of them is a trial, and currently there is an extended trial going on. So we'll talk about the details at the closing. But that is a good way right now to start working with Fusion Team, even if it's on a temporary basis, just to get you through this time right now where you need to collaborate remotely with other users, or even internally with our own users, right? So you're also going to want to take a look at our blog. This blog will kind of help you, walk you through the process of maybe finding out whether you have access to these tools. So I'm going to go ahead and launch the blog right now and just kind of get you to this link. We can share this link with you, but basically kind of guide you through the process of, hey, look, let's access our subscription, see what we have, right? And if you kind of look at this and basically go to all the products and services, if you have Fusion Team, you're going to see it, or I'm sorry, if you have Fusion 360, you're going to see Fusion Team immediately. If you have the collections, you're going to have to dig a little bit deeper, look at all the included tools and collections, and one of them will most likely be Fusion Team. And you can see there's a way to access it immediately. So take a look at our blog. It also talks about the way to access it via trial. Take a look at our blog for some help on that. Again, we'll talk about some of the circumstances right now, or some of the opportunities right now to have an extended trial. So with that said, make sure you find a way to access it, find out if you already have access, and then we'll move on here to maybe setting it up once you do have access. Okay, so what you're going to find interesting here is that you're going to learn some new terminology. So when you're working with Fusion Team, you're going to be working with hubs and projects. Okay, and what a hub is basically is a central workspace in the cloud for your projects. And it's kind of isolated to your organization. So you only want one hub where all your data for your organization sits if you put it up there, and you're going to want to create projects within that, right? So every user upon login gets their own hub, but you want to make sure at some point that you log on, switch hubs to your organization's hub. So I'll show you how to do that in just a little bit, but then there's projects within hubs. So when we talk about projects, you might have a project to maybe modify a set of brackets throughout all your products. So what do you do with that project? You create it, you name it accordingly, and it's a shared workspace so that you can load up the data related to that project and start to work on it together, right? It contains members, with specific roles. It contains the actual CAD data, and it doesn't even have to be CAD data. It could be spreadsheets and other things like that, right? And it gives you a way to communicate and discuss the progress of that, right? So collaborate, right? So in setting up your hub, right, you may have been invited, right? So if you've been invited, this is the easy way. You simply click on the link at the bottom, and it'll take you in where you can log in with your Autodesk ID and start accessing the hub immediately. Okay, so another thing you're going to want to consider is if you simply go to Fusion Team and log in, maybe you don't click on the invite, you might be invited to several hubs. You know, company A might invite you to a hub because you're one of their vendors and they want to collaborate with you. Your organization that you work for might have their own hub. Right, where you have your own proprietary internal data and you share it with other members. Plus, they give you a personal hub. So you're going to want to make sure you switch to the right hub in order to see the right work at the right time. Okay, these hubs, they isolate the data so that one company can't see another company's data. Right. So with that said, I did talk about different hubs. You will get something called a personal hub. And when we look at a team hub, which is correlated with like an organization and includes an organization's data, it belongs to the organization, right? A personal hub belongs to you. So if you put data there, you have less control over it than you do versus a team hub. You can see some of the options there. Both can invite members, but only one can actually control the permissions to those members, right? And both can create projects, but one has project roles that limit the users as to what they can do with those projects. Okay, and another thing to think about too is if for some reason you decided to host a project on your personal hub and it belongs to KETIV manufacturing, when you leave KETIV manufacturing, that data stays in your hub and there's no way for KETIV manufacturing to keep that data, right? Or at least it becomes very difficult to move it to their actual hub. So having a team hub makes it the company's or the organization's data. And if you decide to leave KETIV, right, or you decide to go to another location for whatever reason, you retire, right, that data still is accessible to the rest of the team. So just something to think about when you set up your hub. And we'll take a look at project types next. Okay, so when you do set up a project, there's 3 different types we're going to talk about, and the first one is an open project. So it's the least restrictive of all these projects, but you want to control who has access to this. This open project is intended for all the internal team members. So if you take a look at this, right, if you're navigating through your hub, your organization's hub, anybody who's in that organization is going to be able to see this. They can add themselves to the project, and they could certainly search the project without any problems, right? So it's very free and able to, easy to access. Okay, so the next one is a closed project. Okay, so if you create a closed project, you get a little bit, well, I should say a lot more control over the data, right? For instance, as far as members go, people who can come in and either edit or view the data, they have to be invited, right? And it's the default project type. So initially, as soon as you create a project, this is what you're going to see. It's going to be a closed project, and people have to be invited in order to work in it. Okay, and there's an option for contributors outside users to be able to join. So we call them contributors. We'll talk a little bit more about them in just a little bit. Okay, and last but not least, there is a secret project. Okay, so if you create a secret project, even your team members, the people within your organization that normally have access to all the projects or at least can see them, they will not see them. It'll be a hidden project for them, right? And there's only a few people that can see this. The hub owner is one of them. So somebody sort of like a contract manager with a subscription account is designated the hub owner, right? But if they didn't create it and they weren't invited to it, that's all they can do is they can see it, but they can't get into it and see the contents, okay? Whoever created the project obviously can see into it, and whoever they invite, right? So if you can't see it, you don't even know it's there. You can't even ask to be invited, right? So it's fairly secretive. And again, you could still control, once people are in there, can they view, can they edit? But if they're not part of that group, they're not going to be able to see it at all. Okay. So now in navigating our projects, as soon as you get into Fusion Team, you'll be able to view all your projects here, right? And you can see there's a place at the top where we can kind of filter them out and pin our favorites, look at all the projects within our hub, look at the ones that we owned and created, look at the ones that were shared with us, maybe from an outside organization, and even look at some that are old and have been archived because we're done with them, right? So we could certainly view them. There's an option there to create our projects. So if you click on that button, you'll get a dialog box that looks like this, where you can name your project, add an avatar so they can quickly recognize it. You can certainly create your own image so that you can recognize it again, and you can name it accordingly, right? So you could find it fairly easily in a search. Okay. So now once you're back to this list of projects, you can select the individual project and edit the member types. So again, you'd click on a project and you'd see the details of the project like we're looking at here. You could see we have access to the members, right? We also have access to the type. So the sprocket at the top right is where we get to decide, is this open? Is this closed? Is this a secret project? Okay. So last but not least, when you're done with these projects, because at some point, the idea is you get these back on your network, they're complete, and you put them back on your H drive or maybe back in a Vault if you're using Vault, but you're gonna wanna archive this information. Project's done. We've modified all this bracketry, we've gone through this project to meet EPA standards and modify components accordingly, and it's done. So we archive it, right? And even once they're archived, you can always resurrect them and bring them back. And there's also a way to permanently delete them. So it's up to you how much you want to get rid of or how much you want to hide there. So now, in joining a project, right? How do we get it, get invited to these, or how do we, access these? If you're in an open project, right, and you're a team member on that hub, you can simply just join, right? And if you're a team member, you can also invite other team members. And if they're outside of your organization, they might need team admin approval, but it's fairly open. It's not very restrictive. If it's a closed project, right, and you're a team member and you can see the project, you can request access. And that dialogue you see there is a good example. Somebody clicked on it and you don't have access to it. You can simply click request access and somebody's either going to approve or disapprove whether you can get into that project or not. Okay, so you'll be able to see the project, just maybe not the contents just yet. And of course, a secret project is you're not going to be able to see it, right? You simply will need to be invited to see it. So you'll need to be invited by the owner. That's what you have to do to access that. So in a moment, we'll go and take a look and see, how this is all done. So I'll go ahead and start off here, and I'll switch over to this window here, right? So you can see here, I'm in the Fusion team right now. I logged in maybe for the first time, and I'm looking at my personal hub, and there's no way to really tell immediately, but as soon as I click on my avatar, I could see all the hubs that are available to me. I've been invited to some that are outside of my organization. I have a couple here for KETIV, right? One is a Fusion team one is a BIM 360 docs one, where there's more architectural engineering type documents inside of there. But I'm looking at my personal hub. This is where I don't want to work on any company data. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and switch, right? And I'm going to get to my Fusion team hub. So at KETIV, these are all the projects that I've created, right? So these are all the projects that I've created. And if I take a look at, this KETIV new project here, right? This is where I can look at the details, right? And there's nothing in it yet. I haven't uploaded any data or any files just yet, but I am able to see the contents. And if I go to project details over here, this is where I can go ahead and maybe manage the members. So I haven't invited anybody yet, but you can see here, I can simply invite whoever I want, and I'm going to go ahead and invite Jose. I'm also going to invite, let's see, myself as a on my personal account here. Okay, so I also get to decide, what their roles are. Are they going to be editors or viewers? We'll talk a little bit more about this, but this will send out invitations and get them to access some of this information. Okay, so the invites have been sent out, right? And you could also monitor activity here. There's also some other places where we can go to settings and take a look at some of those things. Okay, so with that said, I'm going to go ahead and turn this over to Jose in just a moment. So I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing here, and Jose is going to maybe show us the difference between some of the open and closed and secret projects. Maybe just before I do that, I'm going to come back to my list of projects and just show you I've created some here, one that's closed, one that's secret, and this Fusion Team one, Jose, is I believe is closed as well. So you'll show that here in just a second. So I'm going to go and stop sharing.
Sure thing. Yeah, and I'm going to go ahead and start sharing my screen here. And again, I'm on KETIV's hub as well. So Jav was showing the projects that he had created, but I'm actually under all, so I can see pretty much any project created in general. So Grayson or Jeff that have created Fusion Team projects, I'm able to see theirs as well.
And these are all people within our organization, right?
Yeah, these are all people within our organization, and the projects aren't secret.
Yep.
So that's the biggest thing I want to point, or the first thing I want to point out here. We noticed that Javier had a KETIV secret project, which of course he had set to secret. And because he hasn't shared it with me or he hasn't invited me to it, I don't even know it exists. So I can't see it here. I don't know it. I can't even request it. So it's up to Javier to actually invite me there. So the other thing we want to look at here there are some projects that are closed here that I don't have access to, but I do know they exist. So for example, I believe KETIV closed. Yeah, it's a closed project. I know it's there, but I don't have access to it. So like Javier showed, there's an image here, or there's a window that pops up where I can actually request access from Javier here. So I'm going to go ahead and send that there. One of the other projects that Javier was showing where he actually invited me had a pending request from me as well. So you'll see that Javier's personal account showed up pretty quickly there. But mine was in that request still. So I'm going to go ahead and do a refresh here of the projects and go back to Javier's list. As you can see, in the hub, we can see everyone's project. But if there are any that I do have access to, something really quickly here, if you hover over the projects themselves, if you have access to one of the projects, you'll be able to pin it. If you don't, it won't give you that option over here. So now that Javier has actually accepted my request here, I can go into this KETIV Fusion Team and actually view the folder structure within. Once you have access to the project, you can actually navigate through the folders, you can navigate through the files. But again, if it is a closed project, you can request access to it, and that'll send a notification actually to Javier. You'll see I have some notifications up here from the invitation that he sent me recently. So I'm going to go ahead and accept that. So KETIV new project. Because I accepted it, I have access to it now. As he mentioned, there's actually nothing in here yet, but I now have the option as an editor. So if I look under project details and member details here, I'm added as an editor. I will have the option to add files in here. So I'm going to send it back to Javier here and see if any of the requests that I sent actually show up there. So I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing there.
Yep. Okay, so I think you guys can see my screen there. And I'll take a look now in Fusion Team, and I'll just kind of refresh my screen real quick because I don't know if it shows up immediately. But I'll go ahead and refresh it there. And at the very top, I have some notifications, right? So he's invited me here. This is where I can approve him. He's requested to join another project here. I can also watch some of the activity here that's happened with other projects that I'm involved in. So we can see quite a bit here, and we can certainly respond to some of this. So again, if I click on this, I've been invited, and I can certainly accept that invitation, start seeing some of the data that he's going to share with me. Also, one more thing that maybe I didn't share with you guys immediately, is how do you create your project in the first place? Top right, there's our button. This is where we go ahead and just basically name our project. You choose an avatar, and you can certainly upload your own image. But once you're done with that, you'll see projects again here within this list again that you can control, start inviting people to, and start uploading data to. Okay. So let's come back here for a second, right? So we've shown you how to access them initially, right? We'll talk a little bit more about maybe how to manage the information in there. Okay, sounds good. All right, so with that said, right, let's go and tackle the next subject, right? Talk about security and user roles. And we're going to start off with talking about the roles and security within the hub first. Okay, so within this giant workspace that involves lots of people within your organization, there's 4 main role types, right? It's the hub owner, and the hub owner and team administrator are very close. I mean, the hub owner is a administrator, but the hub owner has some unique characteristics that we'll talk about in just a moment. But these are the 4, right? Hub owner, team administrator, a team member, and a project contributor. Okay. So in an administrative window, you can kind of see all these people, these users that are involved, and you can see what the roles are. We'll show you what that looks like and how to access it in just a little bit. But those are the 4 main roles. Let's talk about the team hub owner, right? So he's a person that's kind of a contract manager, has the most control over that hub. There can only be one. We mentioned he's a team admin, right? And he can invite more members and invite outside project contributors. So when we talk about contributors, they're typically outside users that can see into your hub, right? Those are your contractors and things like that that maybe don't necessarily work at KETIV or work at Acme Manufacturing. Okay, so between the team admins, members, contributors, you can see the team admins and members are very, very similar, except one has the right to assign hub level roles to users. Okay, that's the team admin is going to be able to do that. But other than that, they can both create projects, browse and join projects, invite other members. Again, they can't control their roles, hub level roles, and they can certainly invite outside people, right? So you can see the list there, and a contributor, somebody from the outside, right? They can invite other team members. They'll probably need, admin approval before they can invite somebody else, maybe another contractor, and they can certainly upload files and interact with those, right? So they have that capacity, and again, this is within the hub. The entire hub is how we're controlling that, right, at this level. Okay. So now looking at a project level, right, when you create a project, there's a whole separate list of roles there, right? And it's very simple. You have a project admin, which, if you create a project, you automatically become a project admin, right? And you can assign other people as you invite them to be project admins as well. But by default, the creator is a project admin, right? You can add editors, and so those people will be able to upload and download files. We'll talk about those roles. And of course, viewers, read only, right? Just see the stuff, nothing else. Okay. So the team admin, right, is also a team member. They can change the name of the hub. So if it's called KETIV Manufacturing today, maybe it's KETIV Incorporated. We can change that hub to say something different or be titled a little bit different. Right? They can change things, settings like invite approval. Is it required? Is it not? They can deactivate members, right? And again, this is within the project. They can deactivate some of these members and promote others to admins, or within the hub, I should say. And they can deactivate projects. So once we're done, they can certainly deactivate them, archive them, and call them done. Okay. Now, a member within a project, right, can browse all projects except for secret ones, so they can see them. They can see other members. and they're able to invite other members, right, to a project. And they can join any project. They can request to join a closed project. And of course, if it's secret, they have to be invited again. So, and they're able to, move projects or delete projects that they're members of. So a team member, has all these ways to control the project and what's in it, right? And a project contributor, okay? So if you invite somebody, outside of your organization that's not already a team member, maybe they work at a different company, their invitation will look a little bit different. It'll let them know that they're a contributor and they're going to have limited access, right? They might invite other members, but they'll need approval, right? That's a little bit different. And they can only access to what they've been invited to. So even though we have 10 projects, some of these are open, right? Some of these are secret, some of these are closed. They can only access the ones that they've been invited to. So they'll see an even, more limited set of projects there. Okay. So things they can't do. They can't see other projects within the hub, like I just said. They can't become an admin, and they cannot be invited to open projects. Okay. So those are some of the limitations, and we want those with outside, people. We want that type of control over our projects. So just to summarize, right? When you do have a project, you're going to be able to give them either viewer, editor, or project admin access, right? And the viewer's pretty straightforward. All you could do is view files, folders, comments, things like that. The editor is going to be able to get the link, review things live on in Fusion Team, edit, upload, download their files, right, and manage, how they share the files or share the information within a project. Okay, and of course the project admin can do all of that, plus control the settings, right? Change it to a closed or change it to a secret, approve people, things of that nature. Okay. Now, when you're looking at all this, right, there is an administrative view when you're looking at this, if you're an admin, where you can see things like the hub members and their roles. Okay. So you can basically see, are they admins? Are they contributors? And then, of course, you can also look at this at a project view and archive, old projects or change the roles within projects. Okay. And last but not least, this is where you might change the name or change the approval for some of these hub settings. Right. So let's go and take a look at what that looks like now. And we'll switch over here and take a quick peek. Right. So if I click on my avatar here, right, I can go to admin. I'm an admin, and I can start to see some of these settings. So right here within the team, right, I'm looking at my team settings. This is where I can edit my team name, right? Edit how files are shared, right? Decide whether, admins get new members are invited by the admin only, or if they maybe need approval, or maybe if they're automatically approved. I like this. Anybody with KETIV.com is automatically approved. So you can add your several domains here. If there's several trusted domains that get that can be added as members, that can happen here as well. Okay. So if we take a look at the actual members, this is where we can see every person who's part of our hub and decide, are they an admin? Are they a contributor? In this case, this particular user is outside of our organization and they can contribute, but they're not going to be administering any projects. Okay. And then here's our list of projects again, but this list looks a little bit different. This is where we can archive. This is another way we can archive the project. This is another way we can access and manage these roles. So when I click here, right, in this particular one, one person is an admin, all these people are editors, and there are no viewers, right? So if I go to team members, right, this is another way to look at the same information and make somebody an admin or change their access. All right, so let's come back to this here. And actually, let's take one more look here at maybe a project. Maybe looking at this instead of through the admin view, I'm going to go to my Fusion Team project, right? Look at the project details. And this is another way, again, I can manage the members here as well. So there's a couple different ways to do the same thing. I can see, you know, Jose's an editor. I'm the admin on this one. Okay. So, all right, so let's take a look at the next part of this. This is the meat of this, right? This is the important part that we're going to deal with day to day, which is managing our CAD data, right? Inventor data, AutoCAD data. The first thing you want to do is work with your, or download and install your Autodesk desktop connector, right? So what is this thing? It basically creates a virtual drive and connects to your cloud drives. Okay, so whether it's an Autodesk drive or BIM 360 team, specifically here for this example, we're talking about Fusion Team. Okay, it'll install a drive on your hard drive, and basically you could just open documents and work directly from there. It's the best way to work, right? In fact, there's a part of that that says, hey, say if your pack can go from maybe Inventor to one of these drives, okay? And this helps tremendously in terms of managing that data. So it's the way to go. How do you get it, right? So let's talk about that. You know, obviously, you know, before all this, you want to make sure that the contract manager gives you access to Fusion Team, right? And when you get to Fusion Team, you're going to want to sign in with your Autodesk ID. So this tool is something that gets installed. It needs to sign in. It's got to be the same one that you access Fusion Team with. That determines what hubs you have access to, what projects you have access to, okay? And when you install that desktop connector, you're going to see a drive. And that drive, when you expand it, will show the projects, the hubs that you have access to. It will not show you the ones you don't have access to, okay? After that, it's a matter of just saving data to that hub or that drive, okay? So it's fairly straightforward that way. Now, when you're working specifically with your Inventor or AutoCAD data, right? Best way to work, especially if you're going to round trip it. The whole idea in a lot of this isn't to keep the data up in the cloud forever, right? It's to get it back, get it to a place where we can all share it, especially right now where we're all trying to work remotely, right? In some cases, I think I heard yesterday, some of our customers, designers and engineers, are working from home and manufacturing is stuck at the shop. So, you know, you got to get the data home, remotely, wherever you're at, edit it, be done with the project, and get it back, right? So you want to make sure that you preserve the data, the folder structure, all of that, and eventually maybe get it back to your, you know, network drive or back into Vault if you're using Vault. So pack and go is the best way to do it. And if you open up an assembly or design, you simply pack and go directly into that folder. So we'll show that in just a second. We'll also talk about AutoCAD. AutoCAD is much easier. If it's a single file, just save it into the cloud drive. If it's a file with XREFs, right, you might want to use something called eTransmit, okay? So I think the actual tag got cut off there, but it's a tool called XREF or eTransmit, and it's very similar to Pack and Go. It gathers up everything that's linked to that AutoCAD file and make sure it gets packaged and put in the right location, okay? So again, very similar. And so this is the process you want to go through. You want to open your Inventor or AutoCAD data. If it's Inventor, you're going to want to set your Inventor project to Fusion Team Drive project if you're going to edit it, right? And then open files, edit it from there. Again, this is once it's loaded. So previously we were talking about loading the data. Now we're talking about once it's there, how do I, you know, continue to edit it, make changes, and, you know, keep saving these changes back to the cloud. Okay. Make sure that when you're doing this, you're coordinating with other users, right? Other editors. You're going to want to treat this like a network drive, you know, on a server, especially with using, you know, Inventor. You don't want two people accessing the files at the same time. So make sure you coordinate with them, right? So let's take a look at what that looks like, right? And I'll go ahead and open up Inventor here. Okay, so I have a design here, and I've just basically opened it up from a network drive. So if I take a look at it here, you can see I'm mapped to an H drive here where I have some engineering data, designs, and I'm looking at this this boxer motor, right? So here's the actual motor itself, but I really want to share just the airbox. And so I have a drawing of the airbox, and you're going to want to open the highest level of the design that you're going to share. So this is the highest level. I want to share the airbox. We might want to make some changes to this and put it out there on Fusion Team so that, you know, collaborators, whoever's going to make the changes, maybe even vendors, right, or contractors can access it and start making changes to it. Okay. So with that said, I'm going to go ahead and do a pack and go. So when I go to Save As and I look at pack and go here, several of you guys probably have used this just to send this to somebody else. So it's asking me to save some of this information. I'm going to go and drag my pack and go window over. Right? Okay, settings on the left-hand side. They probably don't need a copy of my style. So I'm going to skip that or skip the templates. If they need it, great. You know, you're going to uncheck these and package it up with all this other information, right? We're going to keep our folder hierarchy, right? We want to preserve the folders system that we have so that we can put this back eventually. And then at the very top, I'm going to go ahead and click Browse, right? And start browsing to where we want to put this. Now, this is just good old Windows Explorer. So on my network, right, I'm starting to see that drive that I was talking about. And there's a couple of other drives, you know, that are mapped here. There's my good old OneDrive there, but there's a BIM 360 drive here somewhere as well. There it is, BIM. And these are my Autodesk Cloud drives. Fusion Team, these are 2 hubs I have access to. And then I start to see projects. Okay. So these are the projects I have access to. I'm going to go ahead and put this in my Fusion Team project. Okay. And actually, let's go and put it in an empty one here. Yeah, let's go ahead and put it in this new project. So when I click OK, right, I'm going to go ahead and tell it to search for all the files. It's going to gather up all the files that would be required to basically see or work with the information I have here. Right, and we'll give this a second. Right, and as soon as it finds it, right, what I'll be able to do here is just start, and it's going to package and save it to that location that I just said to look at here. There it is. So there's some of this data. I'm going to go ahead and tell it to start, right? And it's going to package that information up and just put it in that folder. It's done. So at this moment, right, if I've installed the desktop connector, and I'll show you how to access that here in just a sec. When you're on Fusion Team, you know, before you package this stuff up, in order to see the drives, this is a quick, easy way to access this. You click on your avatar, install your desktop connector, right? So right now, this desktop connector has been installed and it's already working in the background, right? So you'll find the desktop connector down here in your task tray, kind of working silently. If I look at this A here, and you don't want to go to the desktop app, but the desktop connector, okay? I have options here to sign in or sign out, and I'm signing in with the same ID, okay? And then I could also look at pending actions. So it took whatever I saved to my Fusion Team drive, and it's working right now on syncing this stuff up to the cloud, and it's done. It's already uploaded some of this data, okay? So when I look at this data on the cloud, and I'm pretty sure it's done here, it should have preserved all the folder structure, everything I need to start working with that. And likewise, when I go ahead and work with this information, I'm going to click open, right? And maybe we'll do this. I'll launch another session of Inventor here. Or better yet, let's see. There we go. So here's my other session of Inventor.
Yeah, and while you're doing that too, Jav, I just want to make it known as well that like when you're using things like Fusion Team, it's not just a repository for your CAD files. Fusion Team is a viewer. that's actually really cool. So if you've used things in the past with the Autodesk Cloud viewers, it's using a lot of the same technology that those are using to be able to get a look at your model in space, not in outer space, but a look at model in a 3D space, as you would in some of the desktop Autodesk viewers as well.
So the next step here, if it's all loaded and up in the cloud, ready to go, right? And I'm one of these, users working remotely offsite. I'm going to launch Inventor and set my project to something inside of Fusion Team. So when we did the pack and go, what it did is it created a project for that airbox. And you can see here, I've navigated to my Fusion Team drive, right? And I'll go ahead and get to it this way, right? And I'm going to go to the folder that it was uploaded to, and I'll find all that information. So I'm going to go ahead and go to my secret project here. Okay, there's my airbox project. Okay, and now that I'm set, I should be able to access all that data that we looked at or that we just uploaded a minute ago. So if I'm a new user, I'm going to be able to see this data and start navigating accordingly. Okay, until I find, and you can see it's copied the same folder structure. And there's my assembly. Now, when I click open here, you might see a message here that says, hey, it's missing a library. There was nothing in the library folder, so it didn't copy that folder. So when I click open, we'll see if we see it here in just a second. Because it's, from the cloud as a new user, it's downloading this information right now from the cloud locally to my drive. So it might take a second. It will keep this file here for a little while. This is that message I was talking about. All I needed to do to get rid of this is just create a library folder empty. It wants it, needs it for your project file. So you might have seen that if you've used Vault and maybe you hadn't created a local version of the folder. Okay, so at this point, right, I'm working on something that's cloud-based. And if you take a look on the left-hand side, my browser looks a little bit different, right? I see clouds next to this. This is an indication that I'm working off something cloud-based. And I can certainly make changes here. I'm going to make a quick change here. And let's go ahead and add maybe a hole to this. And I'm going to set this to go maybe all the way through. Let's go ahead and make that diameter a little bit bigger. All right, so we've cut a hole in that. And so that constitutes a change, right? As soon as we save it here and get out of the file, the assembly, is updated. It's got a hole now. And we get out of the file, it's going to start uploading back to the cloud. Okay. And we might even be able to see this in our desktop or our Autodesk desktop connector. So if I right click and go to pending actions, you can see here, I just saved it a second ago. It's saving that back up to the cloud. Okay. So from here on out, somebody will be able to see version 1 on Fusion Team and version 2 of that file if they need to, but they can start working with the latest version, the one that's got a hole, if they download it again and start making changes from there. Okay. So
I was gonna say, hey, Jav, just a question came in, and I think it's pretty relevant to the workflow that we're looking at.
Yep.
And it's something that you touched on earlier, where working with Fusion Team and working on files like this will take a little bit more coordination with other users. The question itself was asking if there's a lockdown of the file or the folder as you're working on it. The answer to that is no, as multiple users could end up working on the same file at the same time, which is where that coordination comes into play. You want to make sure that you're communicating with your group as far as who's working on who and who has what files open. It doesn't have the same function that Vault does, where it has this checkout function. So it just
That's correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're definitely going to want to treat this like a files on your network, where you have less control or over who's got a file reserved one way or the other. Okay. So let's come back to, this, again, this method that we're going to talk about can still be used for, internal use. But when we talk about Vault with Fusion Team, it's through a tool called Project Sync. And what it does is it takes your Vault, everything you see within that firewall, and it's basically able to talk to and communicate with your Fusion Team and exchange data back and forth. Now, we'll talk about how that works. But again, the idea is to get it outside of your Vault, out into the cloud without them getting into your firewall, and get that data to customers, other outside collaborators, or maybe even internal users that are working, again, remotely. Okay. So here's some of the details, right? We have a bi-directional capability where we can upload and download, right, from the cloud to the Vault, from the Vault to the cloud. Okay. And again, it's CAD aware, so the links all go through, and you're able to select which data gets shared and to what project you share it with. So the way it works, it uses job processor in the background. It creates a job queue. And if you're not familiar with job processor, it's basically just a machine sitting in the corner that processes, some of these things for you. Things like DWFs, it creates PDFs for you. And in this case, it'll process these files and load them up to the cloud. Okay. So with that said, right, it's only available for Vault Pro, right? So keep that in mind. It's only available for Vault Pro. So if you don't have Vault Pro, you're gonna have to maybe upload these manually, possibly, or find some other way. But with that said, if you do have Vault Pro, right, this is a really good way to share your data, right? So when we look at the details and look at some of the settings, we're going to go ahead and map to a cloud drive, right? And you can have multiple mappings. So if you have two vendors that get two different parts, you can create a mapping for vendor A, one for vendor B, two different projects, right, that one can see and the other one can't, and vice versa. Okay. You can disable the manual sync, and maybe instead of just manually syncing or sending stuff up to the cloud, you can do it on a regular basis and have some criteria attached to it. So only stuff that's been released, only PDFs, you get to decide. So again, it's CAD aware. It's going to load up all the related files. And if you want to put a release bias, so everything that was released as of, revision, 2.1, right? It'll know everything that was connected to 2.1 and only release that data or put that data up in the cloud. Okay. So again, it's going to, grab all the project links and, help you exchange some of this data within Fusion Team. Okay. So at the end of your project, right? Again, hopefully these are finite projects where you have a collaborator working on this, project's done, they don't need access to it anymore. You're going to disable that drive mapping, disable this capability, and maybe maintain another one for a new project, right? Or create a new one. Okay. So when you do this, you can decide, hey, what's going to get uploaded, what's going to go get downloaded. Are we going to do a bi-directional sync where we send data both back and forth, or are we only pushing up? So where I see pushing up as an advantage is if you're working with a vendor and they need to see the latest release PDFs of your products, you can push it up based on maybe a state like it's released and the project contains, you can see there, vein pump. So they're only going to get vein pump drawings or PDFs or whatever you decide there. Okay. So you can schedule this on a regular basis, hourly, daily. You get some choices there. So it can happen on a regular basis. And you could also modify this to be, a different time frame than what you see there. Okay. So again, filters exist here so that we can tell users, or tell Vault what to upload, what not to upload. Okay. And of course, in your job processor, you're going to have some new jobs that show up, right? Out of the box job types, manual upload and download, scheduled upload and download, right? And then a scheduled sync bidirectional. Okay. So basically the way it works, as soon as that time comes up, the job processor does its thing, puts a queue, and starts processing some of this information and sending it up. So we'll show you what that looks like in just a moment. And you can certainly view the process and make sure that it's actually happening and monitor that and make sure that it's actually getting sent up to the cloud. So, of course, desktop connectors required on that job processor. Right, so let's take a quick look at that. And I have some information that's kind of already been uploaded, but I'll show you what that looks like. So first things first, we're going to want to take a look at tools, administration, vault settings.
And real quick too, Jav, you're really short on time, so just you know.
Yep, I hear you. So this happens here under Collaborate, and this is where we create or configure our cloud drive mapping. Right? So all this stuff is popping up on the wrong screen, but I have two different cloud drive mappings. One is for my KETIV manufacturing project. One is specifically for an airbox project where I just want to share the airbox and that's it. Right? And so when you do create a new one, I'm just going to edit one of these. Okay. And this is where we get to decide. So the vault folder, I'm basically capable of sharing my entire vault, but I'm only going to sync what's in this folder. Okay. And what this allows me to do is put links into this file to an assembly. And if an assembly calls out files that are in, anywhere in my vault, it's going to include those. Okay. So this is where we enable that. We can enable or disable the manual sync. That means we can right click and on demand, upload, download files. Okay. Now this is scheduled here to be done every 8 hours. So every 8 hours, it's going to sync whatever's in this Fusion Team folder to the cloud. Now, which folders are going to send it to in the cloud? This is where I can click browse. And again, it's going to my Fusion 360, and I can go ahead and tell it, what project specifically within my hub I want to send this to. So I'm not going to change any of this, okay? But you can see this is going to happen every 8 hours. I've enabled manual sync, okay? And so if I come back to that folder, right? Here's my Fusion Team folder. Whatever's in here, this is a drawing, right, is going to sync every 8 hours. Now, this is just a drawing, and all I did here, and I'm going to do this a little bit differently. I'm going to go to, I'm also going to share maybe an alternator drawing. Okay, so boxer motor plus an alternator drawing. I'm going to right click and drag this to my Fusion Team sync folder. Okay, I'm going to create a link. So I'm not moving the file. All it is a link. And it knows that when it's time to sync this up and upload it, don't just grab the drawing, grab everything that's connected to it. So I'm going to go ahead, instead of waiting 8 hours, I'm going to go ahead and manually upload it here. Okay. So when you manually upload, it wants to know, okay, which one of these do you want to use? I'm going to choose my KETIV manufacturing one because the group of people I want to share this with is here, right? They work with that project. Okay, so that kicks off a job. Okay, you can see here it's waiting for the job processor to start, uploading this. And if I take a quick look at my job processor, you can see it's idle right now, but it just kicked it off. It's starting to upload this. And I'm sure I could probably look at my desktop connector and see that it's going to start loading this. So in a moment, I think you'll see that it's going to kick off the job and start uploading this to the cloud. Okay. So it'll probably take a second, but I do have one that's already been loaded. All right, and let's go ahead and take a look at this here. Okay, so I uploaded this a little bit earlier. And let's take a look at the airbox itself. So here's the airbox drawing. I uploaded that a little bit earlier. It was scheduled, and it's there, right? This is now a place where, you know, outside users, collaborators can start looking at this, working with it. In a moment, we'll be able to view this. If I come back to the overview though, right, you'll be able to see where it's used in, so, or what it uses. So this drawing calls out an assembly. It's not used in anything else. If I jump to the assembly, right, I can see what it uses, and you can see all the parts. So it is CAD aware. It's a bit smarter than putting it in a you know, cloud storage tool that maybe you're more familiar with. Okay. And of course, we can upload it back as well. Okay. So obviously, this isn't meant to get you up and running immediately. We want you guys to reach out to us, ask us, let us know if you need help setting this up. We would be glad to basically help you guys with this. I'm going to come back to our presentation and kind of close things off here in just a moment. So, right, we just went through that. And I want to share an example with you guys. So I think Jose's probably familiar with these guys. Several people on our team are. But Transpac Marinas builds these docks, these floating docks, and they use it extensively, right? They load up files for their vendors to access, and basically they can count on their vendors going to Fusion Team and accessing the latest version of PDFs for them to build components off of. They also use it on site, right? Something we didn't talk about, right? They're putting drawings, models there, not for external use, right? They have a separate project for vendors. They have a separate project for internal use, so that they can open this up on an iPad and actually build things on site and look at the drawings, look at the models, see what the intent was, right? And so here's a quote from them as well, right? Just talking about how the iPad has helped them, you know, tremendously in terms of like just looking at things on site while they're building some of these docks. Okay. So we'll close out here in just a moment, but these are the next steps for you guys. Get access, right? Find out how you can access Fusion Team. Find out how your vendors or stakeholders, the people that you work with, can access it. If you're doing this internally, it'll probably be a little bit easier, but then you're going to want to coordinate with your team, right? And make sure we're on the right hub. We create projects. We invite the right people. Okay. Test it out. If you need help with the workflow, we'll be glad to help, right? And make sure that you can get your data up and down, and eventually, you know, get it back to your network and archive your project. Okay. So for resources, there's a couple good things you can see here. I'm going to click on our KETIV.com remote work page here. We can share this link with you. But we've, you know, gathered just a bit of information, other webinars, other bits of information here, information on the extended access program. So you'll be able to reach out and click on some of these links and access Fusion Team for an extended time here. So you'll be able to see some of those details. That is basically the same information that I have here, but this is what extends your trial. Take a look at that link. It's specifically for this situation that we're in. They're extending the trial a bit longer so that you can at least temporarily maybe get through this time, get data out there while you're working remotely, access it, put it back. All right, so we're going to go ahead and open it up to Q&A. And again, I want to leave you guys with just the comfort of, hopefully the comfort of being able to reach out to us and ask for help. We'll be glad to help. There's several people on our team that are familiar with all this, and we should be able to make things better for you.
Yep. Thanks again, Jav, for going through all that, and thanks everybody here on the team for putting that all together. I know that it is really important at this time that we understand how we can help our customers stay productive in a situation where maybe everything's not ideal in terms of sitting next to your colleague or all being in the same office.
I think what's interesting too, Nigel, is the customer example that we talked about was starting to do this, before, we all had to start working remotely from home. They had to work remotely anyways, right? They're just doing it better. They had to jump, I think, on a lot of people by already having this implemented.
Yep.
So it's kind of interesting.
Yeah, and I've spoken to them a lot previously about the process, and some of my other customers who use the same thing, and
Yep.
they just had a leg up on everyone else, I guess, when all of this went down. So again, I'd like to thank everybody for joining us. I know we went over today, but I think that it is super relevant information, super useful information to everybody. We wanted to make sure it got out there, especially with the ability for users to try using something like Fusion Team now, that it is available via some of the extended trial access that you do have via Autodesk. So again, I'd like to thank everyone in the audience for joining us today. Jose, Brian, and Javier, again, thank you all for putting this together for us and getting all these questions answered. And we'll see you all next week. Just because we're working from home doesn't mean I get to stop doing AVAs. So everybody stay safe, and we'll see you soon. Bye.
Thanks, guys.